session or get them together at the end. So they're discussing the metaverse, and I'd like to introduce Dr. James Morgan, Christian Holtz, Kolja Dam? Did I pronounce that correctly? Thank you. And also Rock as well. So team, over to you.
Thank you, Matt Coyne, WD. So we're going to start the session off, but I think it'd be useful just to familiarize ourselves with the panelists that we have here today. So if you could just briefly introduce yourself and tell me how brilliant you are and why you should be here today. Let's start with you, Kolja Dams.
James, thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Kolja and I'm from Fock Dams, German headquartered agency doing corporate events worldwide.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Christian. I'm a technology guy, so I'm not a classical event guy. And I'm co-founder of Magnet, an event platform. So we have great experiences throughout the last 2 years already. And looking forward to discuss the metaverse topic now.
Hello, my name is Rocco Haro. I got my degree in computer science from the University of Alaska. And I'm happy to be here to talk about this metaverse thing.
Okay, great. Well, look, Rocco, since you're going to talk about metaverse, should we ask you just to lay out in simple terms to the audience here today, what is the metaverse?
Put simply, the metaverse is the summation of the internet and virtual reality. But unfortunately, the real answer is much more complex than that. It's not like describing the internet or a computer. It's more like describing a vision of the future. The term metaverse was first coined by the author Neil Stephenson in his book Snow Crash, where he basically depicts a society where everyone connects through virtual worlds by the means of fully immersive virtual reality headsets. People in his story are using virtual reality as an escape from reality. Fast forward to 2021, Facebook rebrands, and they announce that they're going to be entering and building the metaverse. Thousands of people start jumping on board with this idea, believing that it's going to be the next big thing. Ever since, you have old and new companies who are now creating their own definitions of what the metaverse is. And as a result, you have new terms like Web3, NFTs, and blockchain. With all this new terminology, it gets kind of pretty confusing, right? Depending on who you ask nowadays, the definition of what a metaverse is can vary drastically. To Neil, the author who coined the term, his idea of a metaverse was using virtual reality to connect multiple virtual worlds together through using VR headsets. If you ask a Web3 fanatic, what is the metaverse? They'll say it involves using NFTs, blockchain, and virtual reality all together. I'm not going to get into the Web3 stuff because I don't personally believe in it, and I don't really think you need it to run successful events. And what's really crazy is that you see it all over our industry now. Ever since the rebrand took place, people are repackaging existing technologies and giving it a shiny new name. I've been keeping my eye on a few VR event tech players, and I noticed that overnight, their website started including the words metaverse, while nothing fundamentally changed in their existing services. So, whenever you see the metaverse tag, you can assume that the supplier is offering some form of virtual reality. But there's various forms of virtual reality, okay? You have fully immersive, and that requires using a VR headset. When people speak of virtual reality, that's typically what we think of. But then, down in the middle, you have semi-immersive. Semi-immersive is using things like holograms, or what pilots use for training. They go into a fake cockpit, and as they change the dials, their screens change as they're flying. And then at the lower end, you have non-immersive virtual reality, which has existed for quite some time now. And this is the basis for video games, for the most part. So, what is the metaverse? The metaverse is 2 parts hype, 1 part virtual reality. In conclusion, I believe this panel should really be called How Can Virtual Reality Support Digital and Hybrid Events?
Okay, well, wow, what a critical analysis we have there. That's excellent, Rocco. But I'm going to turn to Christian now because he's a tech guy and he might agree with that or he might think that's a load of rubbish. So what do you think, Christian?
Well, in parts, I agree with Rocco because I think the term itself is really overhyped. But on the other hand, we should not underestimate the value that these technologies can bring to events. And if we talk about the metaverse today, then basically what we're talking about is virtual reality. There are a lot of additional technologies like blockchain and NFT and so on. And I can really imagine that these technologies bring value in the future, but rather as an operational tool, maybe for ticketing, maybe for some kind of digital assets and so on. But if we talk about it today, and my role basically is a practitioner. As a technician, I always want to know, okay, what can I do with it today, now, and how can it bring value? Today we're talking about putting on goggles, using them to create an immersive experience. And now the question is, what is different compared to what we've been doing beforehand, or what is different to what we've been experiencing during the pandemic? And the term metaverse, basically from my perspective, it includes a social aspect, a persistent aspect, and an immersive aspect. Now, what we've been doing, that if we go shopping to Amazon, for example, it's a very lonely thing. We're sitting just in front of a browser and sorting our product, and maybe we Twitter about it later on. If we transfer this experience to virtual reality, it can be extremely social because we can do things together in that world that we also would do in the real world, even not being close in that moment. So social is one important part of virtual reality to bring value, and this is a very important part that will bring value to our events as well, because people can get together, they can experience closeness, they can do things together and experience things together that is not able if we just want to use Teams and Zoom. The second point we had is that it is persistent. If you end the Zoom call is ended. Everything else happens on different platforms. If you do that in virtual reality, your room or your world will remain, and you can re-enter it. You can go back later. You can continue your work. So it's persistent, and this gives you new opportunity also for year-round engagement, for building communities, for creating long-term experiences. And the third aspect is it's immersive. You can experience it on our booth in E22, but if you put on the goggles, you're not distracted by your phone, you're not distracted by starting to browsing on other sites, you're fully focused actually. And you're fully focused with the people that you're in there. And don't go into virtual reality on your own, it's boring. I mean, you can go on gaming and look at YouTube video and so on, but the real experience is if we have virtual reality together with friends, with colleagues, and you do something together, you create an experience. Well, and if you want to know how does it work, what you need, basically, you need the hardware. That's today the goggles, and they will change over the time. So what we see today is not what we're going to see in 5 years. You will need a platform that delivers the world. And then, of course, from an event perspective, you need customization of that platform. You want to have a branding, you want to have tools in there, you want to have some fun, you want to do things together. And that's what virtual reality really can bring to events. And I think there's a lot in store.
I like that idea of co-creation of experiences, but do you think that event planners, and I'll come to you, Collier, here, because you create experiences, that's the job of your agency, wherever it is, China or the US, but that co-creation process and creating activities and things for people to do the programming within in the metaverse, how important is that for the experience?
It is extremely important, and I believe coming from the metaverse, or the idea that it's really a vision, it is a vision or more a hypothesis on what is going to be possible in the future. and possible in the future because we have all gone through an enormous transformation process, from the beginning of this virus thing up until now. And we've experienced what is possible in the virtual world. And we have also seen what is working extremely well, and we've seen what are the limitations. And these limitations now come in a second where there is metaverse as a thesis, as a vision coming up on the horizon. And this is, we just did a survey from 600 event decision makers on the corporate side, that all 600, 80% said the future is going to be the metaverse for events, whatever that is. But we do believe that right now, and I cannot agree more, right now we're talking about extended virtual events. So we are basically driving a bit more to what we are lacking in virtual events right now. The presence of others, the togetherness, all kinds of elements that we've been missing are now helping and coming together. And this is moving it clearer in towards the direction of live events. The second point is that we are not only having these opportunities, but seeing that the future can be true hybrid events. True hybrid events where people are attending live in person as today and attending virtually, but virtually not right now as you just watch a stream, but you could be sitting next to me. And I do know we'll be probably a bit of ways ahead of that. We do need goggles, but I'm still hoping for this Apple company that they will come up with some glasses that will get rid of the brick in front of your face. That would look weird if we'd be sitting here and having all of us very heavy goggles right now.
Oh, well, that kind of takes me to, this delivery idea. How do we deliver these events? For example, could you create two metaverses and get people to port from one to the other? Or, I don't know. This is what everybody wants to know. I'm not big expert on this, but Christian, how would you deliver events to people? Because Kolja's talked about a hybrid experience. What are you doing at the moment with your technology?
So what came up now throughout the last year is that virtual reality really could play a part in the events. And of course, we asked ourselves, well, how can we bring value here? How can we start that experience? We see this marketing hype around Metaverse. Everybody wants to know what it's about. So we just got started. And that's my strongest suggestion to everybody. Just get that experience. Either you buy your goggles, you come to us and check it, and then you take it from there. So typically what we do with our customers is that we offer them like pilot events. A couple of stakeholders, let's take 5 to 10 people and put them together in a virtual world, let them experience something together and really get the feeling of what is possible there. And it can be some kind of gamification, it can be some kind of workshop. Or if we go more in the professional area with healthcare, in healthcare, we do advisory boards with people that it's a group of 10, 15 people, and they don't have to travel necessarily in order to get together, but they can work in a comparable, creative way and really produce sustainable results for which they would have traveled beforehand. And in that term, my strong suggestion for delivering events is start small, but start and try and fail. It's okay. That's the Chinese way of doing it, and they are really fast on that, and we will see that fast development over the next years. There's no sense in trying to start like a large event with hundreds of people. You have technological issues, you have service issues, and so on. But gain that experience, and these people will be the driver and the enabler also to pull in others and start the route to really bring value with virtual reality.
Great. And Rocco, this is a traditional event. We arrive at 9, we leave at 5. There's a whole day of activity. Can that happen in the metaverse? Can somebody physically wear those bricks on the front of your head, as Kolja calls them, for an 8-hour event? How do we deliver events in the metaverse?
Yeah, you can deliver events with virtual reality, not just using headsets, right? So I briefly touched on it when I was describing what is the metaverse, how there's a spectrum of virtual reality. Not all virtual reality is using headsets. There's also non-immersive, which is extremely accessible. Arguably, it can be easier than joining a Zoom call. So that's what we do at Kickback, is offer these worlds that are realistic, rendered in the cloud, and it allows people to go and navigate through these worlds to approach people, and without requiring any additional hardware.
Okay, good. And these worlds, can they be changed in real time, or is that a programming thing? Does it?
Yes, they definitely can be. So most of these worlds are built off of existing gaming engines, so they're rather flexible.
Excellent. Collier, can I come back to the research you did? So you gave us one bit of data from that. Can you just talk about the rest of this research? It sounds interesting because it has a relationship to delivering these events.
We do feel right now from our client side that there is a huge demand, and Metaverse, interestingly, is not just converting the events world of the future, it's converting the entire business systems, the entire ecosystems of our clients in all kinds of fields. So therefore, we do see that there were the key questions also that we are answering here. The first question, what is the Metaverse? And I have to agree, there is, if it's a vision or a hypothesis, there's only one possible metaverse. So there's not really a plural on metaverses or such. The second thing is, why is it interesting for whatever my task right now is, events today? And why is it interesting now? Because we had it with Second Life, I don't know, 16 years ago, and it didn't quite fly at this moment. So these are the main drivers. And then we see people want to get involved, like taking goggles or experiencing. So what we do at live events right now, so in-person events get a metaverse attachment. So people, usually leadership meetings or when global teams come together, we do give them up to 400 people in a group, give them the opportunity to take a metaverse experience while they're there in person, coming together to get a feeling, because it's addictive. Even if you personally say, this is nothing for me, you do get the feeling and you do understand why this is going to be changing the world. And this is happening extremely right now, that we are having pop-ups at events, so sometimes only like 10, 15 stations where you can experience. Then we're producing experience centers at headquarters of companies where they take parts of the meeting rooms that they're not using, with everyone in home office working from home right now, and converting them into metaverse experience centers so that you can get the latest technology and experience it hands-on, and also go between the worlds and figure out what is happening in the worlds and see how this will change your business, and so that your entire leadership team gets a feeling on, okay, now I do get why this is interesting and why we do need to focus on what's happening here.
So, Christian, in terms of the goggles, for example, do you think you're going to start seeing companies like One World Rental renting out goggles like these, but on a larger scale? Because you've done 400.
They do.
So they do that already, do they? Wow.
They do that, definitely. And one important aspect is not to underestimate the service aspect of having an event in virtual reality. So on the one hand, we see companies, for example, like Accenture, that bought 60,000 goggles for their people and just rolled them out, and these just cost a fraction of what smartphones cost. So we really have to put that into the mindset of people, that technology or the price of technology is not the barrier. The barrier in the beginning, especially if you start these pilots things, if you start the pop-ups and so on, is to get people started easily, because they're going to be totally frustrated if it takes them like 1 hour to get connected to the next meeting, and everybody's getting nervous and so on. So the point here is to make it as simple as possible to support the people to get the experience. But if they're in there, if the goggles work, it's so easy to enter a second time. And this first hurdle, this is something that we need to overcome in order to really make a good experience also from a practical perspective.
So just from the point of view of doing this panel right now, if we were doing this in the metaverse, would I need training as the chair of the panel to actually present? Or, I mean, how does that interface work?
Well, sorry. If you would present, most probably we're going to give you some speaker briefing beforehand. I assume you're quite tech savvy, so you would be able to connect it to your Wi-Fi, and if it is well prepared, then you're in, then it's easy.
But it's really, you need to get used to it a bit. And getting used to it, you have been up on stage running panels in real life. And of course, getting up on stage is helpful if you know how to navigate the metaverse or whatever world you're in right now.
Okay, great. And Rocco, just come to you. So we were talking just generally about adoption, you know, about getting used to it and things like that. Do you see any kind of variation in adoption by clients or audiences to do with demographics? You know, age making a difference, male, female, or anything like that?
It depends on the type of virtual reality. So for headsets, typically the younger generation is going to be more receptive than the older generation. But for non-immersive virtual reality, which is the basis of our company, we're noticing that it's pretty friendly to almost everyone because it's really as simple as going into your web browser and clicking a few buttons and you're in, right? These 3D virtual worlds. So at the end of the day, I think how fast a participant can onboard to the platform is really going to be the limiting factor to entering the metaverse. There, I'll say it.
So one of the things from a teaching point of view in events, we talk about immersive experiences. And before the metaverse, we were talking about the 5 senses, you know, touch, sound, smell, etc. So how would you incorporate those 5 senses into one of your experiences, for example? Let's give some inspiration to these guys here, because they might want to do something similar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's extremely challenging to capture all of the senses. If you really want to do, you're talking about like full dive VR here, right? Where not only is your whole face covered, but your mouth is covered, your nose is covered, like you're on a treadmill. It's like, it's a lot, you know? I don't know if that's really what people want. I mean, for gaming, it might be fun. But here's the thing though. I'm a gamer and I play with my friends. And there's moments where we are just lost in the game, right? If you don't game, just think about a really good book that you're in, right? You're not wearing headphones, you're not fully immersed in gear or anything, but you are in that book, you are in that game, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about how you create those experiences and how you cultivate that connection that's going to matter most.
Yes, you have something to say.
To enlarge on that, when we started building our platform, the first thing I did is I went to my boys and said, "Hey guys, can you explain me how you're doing your games here and how you're building your community in games?" And that's so interesting. We can learn a lot from that generation because there's a generation that's been playing games like Fortnite and Minecraft and whatsoever, having communities where they've never met before. But I would say they have in parts more closeness and they know more about each other and more how they handle extreme situations in these games than we sometimes do. It's worth looking at that. And they have the full tech stack to create what we try to do today with Metaverse and virtual reality technology. We're talking about Discord and stuff like it's complicated to use, so it's now of no use for today, here now. But it's in place. And this generation knows how to do it.
Collier, just come back to you because you gave an example of 400 people. How did you manage that? Well, what was the whole kind of design behind that, apart from that, and how long did it last?
I do. Interestingly, it is because you need to take some baby steps. into the metaverse or the virtual worlds that are out there right now. And taking these steps brings it back to live events. And this is the fun parts of it, because here you're coming together and you are able to try out something in an extremely safe surrounding. Mailing out headsets and not fully preparing them, you do need an extreme online concierge to get people that are not tech savvy to really get them going. And I also believe it's going to totally change the world. Someone who has not worked with a headset before is not going to have fun wearing it for X hours for an event. The batteries are not going to last either. So therefore, you need to really decide on what you're doing. And to follow up this question, I believe that live events at this point will always be there at the same moment. And I like the idea of, if you compare this to a book, because you are becoming a co-creator of the entire experience as an attendee. And it feels good to, this is one of my first trade shows for quite some time I'm attending. And we always thought in live events, we do it for the content, for the food, the atmosphere. No, but by the end of the day, surveys, we did the same again, shows why do you go to an event? Serendipity, this idea that you meet people like James and meet people and you have a conversation and you take something new out of this conversation, something new that is transforming yourself and that gets you going, that maybe the exhibitor you just met, the friend you've been seeing in person again, and this moment is lost a lot of times in what we do in the virtual world right now. And I believe the concept of metaverse will bring this back and bring this momentum and really create true value to events.
I think you're absolutely right, because we know that memories are created by emotional triggers within, an event, a live or a virtual world. So, Rocco, what would you say? What kind of emotional triggers could you use within your application to actually create those memories? Just to give some examples.
Yeah, so one thing that I'm really excited about with our platform is just completely redefining what it means to have a booth online, right? So most virtual event platforms are offering like these microsites per se, right? It's just a static image with some information, or it could be a video. What I think that virtual reality really unlocks here is the potential to actually go through a journey, right? So it's no longer just a static page, but it's something that you can transcend into. You can start walking into it, and then the company can start tailoring that ethos of why they exist, right? And as the participant is going through that journey, they start to really understand and resonate with the beliefs and values of that company. And once they get to the end of that journey, they can meet with a representative. So that's kind of a way that I'm thinking virtual reality can really close that gap between booths online and participants and create better memories.
And Christian, do you think that that's important to have those kinds of transformational experiences? And how do you do that?
Absolutely. My hypothesis is, well, don't try to recreate reality in virtual reality. And try to make it different, to use the potential that the technology has. Now, when we have our demo showcase, we said, okay, it's not going to be just a world or just like a video that is played, but there's somebody waiting in that showcase for you and trying to help you to understand how you can use everything, joining with you, playing together with you, showing you the potential of what is there. And if you have good ideas and good concepts, there's so much you can do in virtual reality to make it interesting and to make it really an experience. If you think about putting training sessions in virtual reality, there's so much more that you can do with a virtual product compared to a live product, to make it really immersive for a person to understand what that product is for, or what the value of the product is. Maybe also connect the right emotions with it. So there is much more to it that you can do, but the most important thing, it's only a tool, it's technology. The question is what you make from it. How do you make it really interesting and a great experience?
I'm just going to go off script actually for a minute. Sorry, guys. I want to go back to a point you made about the concierge. So is this like for staffing companies at events where we have ushers and so is this one of the jobs that we don't know about yet? You know, they as a trainer, I keep on getting told, well, you know, jobs of the future, we don't know what they are. Well, maybe this is one of them. I don't know.
Absolutely. I mean, but we are in good company because every single brand and company, if they're selling cars or insurances or banking, they have the same issue. If you walk up to a car dealerships selling electronic vehicles now, people most need service in how to connect their app to the car or something about this. So in all car dealerships, you now need digital concierge helping people how to work with the car. At a bank, you have probably 90% of people walking into a bank have an issue because they just got a new iPhone for Christmas and need the banking app on a new phone. So now you have people in a bank that are usually trying to sell you stuff or help you get a loan for your house or something, are well-trained people, and what is they do, they spend most of their time explaining standard technology issues. And we're having at events, the more technology it gets and the more technology you involve, you do the same thing. So if you give people equipment that they have not used before, you need to help people with the equipment. And this will be a huge demand in all industries all over.
And Rocco, how do you support your clients or the audiences with your service? And I'm going to ask Christian same question actually. I mean, what's your support system?
Yeah, so there's a few different areas that need support. The first one is greeting folks and introducing them to the platform and understanding how things work. In the beginning, we'll be holding a lot of hands, but over time there can be tools and graphical displays that you can provide to users to figure out how to navigate throughout the world. But then on the production side of things, you still need to design the entire virtual world, the sessions, right? Bridging in any streaming that's coming in. So there will be an entire back house dedicated to supporting event professionals for that.
And my take on this is we can compare it to real life. First, understand the purpose. What do you want to achieve? Now, if you have like an express hotel, like a small motel, where you can do everything self-service, maybe with an app, you don't need a lot of people. If you want to have like a 5-star hotel experience, then potentially you have more service people than you have guests in that hotel. And that's the same here with VR. It's a question, it's only technology, it's a question what do you want to make with it. You can run VR mostly with self-service. Of course, it has a couple of hurdles and it may seem a bit more simple than the high-class event, but you can run an event also with really people being in there, creating that experience and with a very human touch, but it's what you make of it.
I just want to flip to something more about well-being here and length of time in a virtual world, as well as people who have hidden disabilities, people maybe can't hear. There may be people with epilepsy. There's lots of different impairments out there. How do we include everybody? I don't know if anybody's addressed this before. Collier, do you want to have a go at that?
It's an extremely important momentum, talking of sustainability and all kinds of diversity, equity, inclusion, and that plays a key role here as well. And I believe as now, if you take all these standard operating systems, they have a lot, depending on your smartphone, on your laptop computer, they offer you all kinds of services to overcome these challenges. And I believe that from VR goggles, they do offer certain momentum right now, and this will evolve and it will be playing a key role. It must be a key role because you cannot leave anyone out of the experiences.
Yeah, we will see a lot of development in there because today even we have the problem with batteries and we have the problem with dizziness with some people. I personally don't have it, but I know of other people that have it. So what we typically do is first of all put the content in small chunks that is easy to be available. What we've seen also with a lot of the event platforms throughout the last 2 years is that accessibility features were added step by step. And this is what we will definitely also see when it comes to metaverse technologies. We have such high investments from the large tech companies in there, and we simply cannot afford to leave anybody out. But there's still development to do and a way to go, definitely.
And Rocco, from yours?
Yeah, this is one of the things that really excites me about virtual reality and helping folks with disabilities is the potential to really bridge the communication gaps that might exist. For example, someone who only speaks in sign language, we could interpret their sign in real time and then have a voice speak to them. So someone who doesn't read sign language could have a conversation with them. And vice versa, if someone is hard of hearing, right, we could be displaying a transcript in real time. So there's a lot of opportunities to help bridge those communication gaps that we're looking forward to building into our platform.
Excellent. I'd just like to, could we just have the, here we go. Any questions for the expert panel? If you want to just put that link, it's very easy to type. And then your question will come up here. And if anybody wants to like somebody's question, it will go to the top of the pile. And again, we can ask our experts. So the elephant in the room, I'm going to go to Collier because he's a mate of mine. So where are we going to be in 5 years' time? Is our live events going to just disappear, or your survey says everybody wants metaverse? I'm going to go down the line on this one because I think I want all your opinions. Let's start with you.
Thank you, James. The good news is live events will not disappear. So even with all the evolvement, like the smartphone, mobile internet is now a certain percentage of everyone using the internet instead of your desktop computer. But all of the stuff is still there. And I'm also still reading books, even though that is a technology that is way 100 years older. And live events will never disappear. I do believe in this campfire gene in all of us, this campfire gene that has been drawing ever since mankind to the campfire to meet with friends, to talk about stuff, and that will never disappear. But having said this, we have seen in the last years what the potential of virtual events is. And we have seen not only the limitations, but a lot of things that work extremely well. And these moments will shift over, especially in the hybrid world, to the metaverse of tomorrow.
Lovely. Christian?
Well, I agree with Kolja, definitely. I love being out. I love traveling. But we have a couple of topics coming up throughout the next years where we really need alternative or additional options. It's the question of sustainability. Nobody is going to know what the energy prices will do with events. We see inflation. And these are all aspects that will make the attendance and the creation of in-person events a bit more difficult. So it will be more selected. We will see budget cuts in large companies. And if we have an alternative that does not necessarily require us to travel for a 4-hour meeting across the globe to get together and do something, then this might be something that we pick. It's something additional in the portfolio, and as this, I think it should be seen as well and also treated.
Thank you, Rocco.
I think live in person is going to be around forever. It's never going to go away. It's just a matter of how many people will actually be going when there's also a virtual component, right? Going back to the whole accessibility thing, if there's significant, if there's content that I want to consume, but I'm not too concerned about the networking, maybe I I come in remote, right? And there's also networking functions too that exist within virtual platforms. But I think the future is using more virtual reality within events, hybrid events. And these experiences that I'm envisioning are experiences that nobody has experienced before, right? So as our technology continues to mature and more people can start using this platform, I'm just really excited to see how people decide to use VR in a non-immersive way.
Okay, great. We're going to start on some questions because we don't have long left. So the 5 minutes left. Thank you. Thank you. The term metaverse has been used in so many different ways to describe vastly different things, and you gave a very good explanation of that, Rocco. Is it still meaningful to use the term, or should we move to talking about virtual spaces or creative spaces? Yeah. Any comments from anybody on the panel? Christian?
Yeah. Well, as long as we can get interest in that topic and help people to gain some access because it's the new hot topic, and then help them to create the real value from that. It doesn't matter which label we're going to put on it. But I think we were very open here in agreeing that the metaverse topic itself, or metaverse as a term, is a bit overhyped, and we really need to make sure that we have the same basis about what we're talking.
Thank you. There was a question there about the business case. So can we just go back to where, yes, what is the business model for metaverse in the events industry? Will you charge exhibitors or visitors or both? Could be festivals, could be conferences as well. So let's not limit ourselves. A provider, thank you.
Yeah, so it really, at the end of the day, it just depends on who is offering you the product or service. But for us, we just charge you based off of usage. So how long is it one particular person connected? And that's it.
And Kolya, how do you sell it to clients? And what's the business case for them?
The business case really depends on the project. So you can create it. We, as a full service agency, would would offer from the virtual world the entire ecosystem behind it, and then the entire experience. And by the end of the day, it's then a fixed price line the client would pay, because usually in the corporate event world that we are catering, there is a defined target group, so it's defined how many people are attending, and how and it's important for the client to know what's going to cost upfront instead of counting on the box office.
Okay, great. So look, we're going to end it there, but I just want you to each give one tip to the audience here. Whether it's a festival, whether it's a conference or an expo like this, if you were going to give people one tip, what would your tip be? And we'll go down the line. If you could start that, Kolya.
The one tip is get started. Don't worry about how it's going to be called or what it's about. Get started and experience, because everything you learn about it now will help you in the future. Don't wait what's going to be coming there. Do get started now, because otherwise you will have the chance to be left behind and you're not going to get ahead of the wave. And this is the moment. So no matter how small, try it out, experience, and learn from it.
Yeah. Basically, you said it. Just do it. Go forward. Get your experience. Don't focus on the problems. We had that in some of these questions, but rather focus on the opportunity. And that will help you to identify clear use cases that will bring value to you, to your customers, to your events, and then really make the best of that technology. It's just a tool. It will be evolving over the years very, very fast. And of course, nothing is perfect right now, but if we wait until it's perfect, then it's over.
Okay.
Yeah, my tip is just stay curious and question how the world works.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Kolya Dams, Rocco Hara, and Christian Holtz. Let's give them a round of applause for all that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.